My name is Joe Dalton, entrepreneur and business coach. Welcome to Breakthrough Brands. Each week we bring you an inspirational story and an insight to the minds of some of the top business leaders, authors and mentors from around the globe. Whatever is needed to make you shine in life and business, you'll find it here.
On this week's show, we have Benjamin Dennehy. Benjamin is widely known as the UK's most hated sales trainer. His direct, blunt, honest and truthful assessment of sales either endears him to his audience or causes extreme discomfort. He challenges traditional understandings of the role played salesmen and prospects. He holds up an ugly mirror and makes those who profess to be sales professionals to take a long, hard look into it. Many don't like what they see and a few hate him for it. You may dislike his style, his dress sense, and even his red Make Salesmen Great Again cap. But love him or hate him, the logical consistency and truth of what he says can't be ignored or reasoned away.
If you wish to reach me about any of the topics covered in this episode or any other episode, you can get me on WhatsApp 086 821 0037 or email joe@jdc.ie. Or follow me on LinkedIn under Joseph Dalton. I also need your help to spread the word. If you could please take 2 minutes to share, like or make a comment on this episode, I would be truly grateful. And Benjamin, welcome to Breakthrough Brands. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on the show, Joe.
Glad to have you on. Benjamin, there's one thing I have to ask you. You have on your profile the most hated sales trainer in the UK.
People have a natural proclivity to dislike me, so I figured why not capitalize on a personal trait. No, I chose it because what I teach is very challenging and it forces people to look in the mirror, and a lot of people hate it.
Okay.
They get it and they know it makes sense, but they hate the idea that they're going to have to change as much as they have to make selling successful. And when I make them realize it's got nothing to do with them or their winning personality or their good looks or their presentation skills.
Tell me, before we get into sales,
yes,
tell me a little bit about your background, from why you got in, what age you realized that you were devoted to this fine profession that we are both in, and how it led you to the UK.
So I'm a Kiwi. If the people have picked up the accent, I'm from New Zealand. And I qualified as a barrister in New Zealand. And I was going to spend my life defending criminals, but I decided I should do some travel before I buckled down and grow up. Came to the United Kingdom, bummed around for years working in pubs, traveling, and then finally went home, realized I couldn't live in New Zealand. Like most people in sales, I fell into it. Very few people choose selling. You know, when you were at school and your teacher asked you, what do you want to do for a living? I mean, how many put their hand up and said salesman? I don't think anybody ever did. So I fell into it. And I suppose my experience was working with advertising agencies in London. And I realized none of these people knew how to sell. Now, I didn't know how to sell, but I knew these guys didn't know what they were doing. And it frustrated me. And it was one of those ex-clients that I worked with that phoned me up and said, I want to introduce you to a man. He's going to teach you how to sell. And everything you used to moan about, we don't do anymore. And that's how I got into it. And I met Marcus and I fell in love with what he taught me. And I realized the lawyer in me said, this is a system. And if you just get good at this, you'll be good at selling forever. So that was it. I fell in love with the process.
Being a barrister, well, over here can be very lucrative because of the high fees and the way that it's structured. Was there a torn between two loves, or was it just, look, I'm not really into this and I just want to focus on sales?
Well, it was a tough decision because if I wanted to stay in the UK and practice, they wanted me to do a conversion course, and that was going to be time and money that I didn't want to invest. Or it was go back to New Zealand, but I decided to leave New Zealand. So my hand was kind of dealt. But I love the law because I view law and selling as very much the same, similar things. They're both processes. They should be both unemotional, and I should never be worried about the outcome of a trial. Because that's out of my hands. What I have to worry about is everything I do up to the point that the jury gets sent out, or up to the point that the prospect has to put their hand in their wallet. So I see them as almost identical. They both involve acting. They both involve understanding humans. They both involve psychology and communication skills. So to me, they are parallel. And the beauty is, if I screw up in a sale, no one goes to prison.
Yes.
That's really quite a good feeling.
Yes, you haven't worked in car sales. So
I'm willing to learn.
So tell me, you talk about the process, and we both understand sales. I'm in sales about 28 years. Again, like yourself, I went abroad. I went over to Europe, learned how to sell, and my whole life changed. My income tripled, and it was unbelievable. And it's an industry I love and I'm very passionate about because I can write my own paycheck. But there is also a stigma about it. And I think a lot of salespeople, and I think the question I'm driving to is with your mirror is, do you find that people are embarrassed to say they're in sales instead of treating it as a true profession?
Oh, without doubt, because you just look at their job titles. Business development executive. No, the word sales doesn't exist. You'll be at a party. What do you do for a living? And you sort of downplay. No, selling to most people is not noble. It's dirty, and that's a justified position to take on it, though, because most experiences people have had with salespeople haven't been particularly pleasant. And human beings by nature are prejudiced, and we carry those experiences with us. So it doesn't matter how wonderful you are as a human being, how moral or decent. As soon as you say salesperson, every previous experience I've ever had with a salesperson is brought to the fore, and you are now that very person. So that's what we're up against. We're up against that every day.
I'm proud to say that I'm in sales and a salesperson. I wear that badge of honor. And you are dead right. You look at recruitment companies and you look business development, sales manager, and you go, you'd look, oh, there's a sales, just look at sales manager. Let's have a laugh at this. And you look, and that's not a sales manager. That's a guy on his own in a van. Do you know, who's he managing? And I think it's all painted to try and get people in. But there's also the element, there's a lot of companies get young guys in, they send them out on the road to sell. So the guys are winging it. They think because they can talk, they can sell, and they get burnt out very quickly.
And that is one of the big misnomers and misunderstanding. People think selling is about convincing someone and having the gift of the gab.
Yeah.
It's quite the opposite. It's about enabling a prospect to discover that you have something they need. Because if they discover it, they can't ever argue with it, and they will never feel as if they've been guilted or conned or tricked into anything. Because if you discover it, you own it. It's yours. So that is the biggest problem with salespeople is they go out, they have big egos, they puff their chests out, they dress and look like salespeople, and then they go on and try and impress people with their knowledge, skills, and expertise. And at the end of the day, prospects don't want that. They just want to be felt and understood and made to feel that you can help them.
Yeah, it's all about, what problem can you solve for me? And at the end of the day, the sales guys should be going out there and asking questions and then steering their presentation or demonstration, whatever you want to call it, geared to the person. One thing I want to ask you, there's something coming out of the States at the moment about, we all talk about social selling, and we're all talking about this, and there's a lot in the States they're realizing, okay, social selling works, but you need to be doing both. And a lot, I think there was the likes of HubSpot, inbound marketing, painted this lovely rosy picture. You don't need to do anything anymore. You just need to build a lovely landing page, and Johnny salesperson, purchase man will see you and buy off you because he loves your landing page. Okay, we do get them coming in, but you need to be outbound to get the majority of them. So in the States, they're realizing, hang on, we need to be doing both. What is your thoughts on it, Benjamin?
Well, I'm exactly the same as you on that. The social, I don't call it social selling because that's a lie. It's social marketing. I think the word sales is overused. If you're driving somebody to a website to buy something, you're simply in the order fulfillment business. That's not a sale, that's a transaction. To me, selling is two human beings or several human beings meeting, and the salesperson being able to get the other side to discover that they need them, and both parties walking away satisfied. And so it is an interaction between human beings. And so cold calling is an interaction because you have to pick up the phone, you have to talk to them. You're going in, taking someone who's sitting there eating a sandwich, happy as Larry, and then you've suddenly got to hook into their world, tap into a pain, and make that person think, maybe I should explore this a bit further.
Disturb them enough that they realise that they need your help.
Simply driving someone to your website, or I get a lot of inquiries through LinkedIn. But LinkedIn to me is a marketing platform. It generates leads, but I still have to qualify. A lot of time wasters. So many people ask me to mentor them, i.e. free consult them. That's what they really mean. So you've got to filter out the crap. I think social selling, if you want to call it that, just increases the volume of interested people. But interest isn't a buying signal.
I made a decision a long time ago that I stopped giving out free advice to people who were coming to me on LinkedIn, and now I charge, and it's worked out very good. I think that social selling or social media, it's social, okay? Call it, as you said, call it what you want. It is making people know that you exist.
Yes.
Okay, so I know this guy exists. I know this guy. His message is quite good. I'm interested maybe in have a conversation with him. So they might put their hand up for awareness. But everything, I believe, has to drive to a phone call.
Yes.
So you need to have that conversation. And usually if the sales guy is correct and is educated and is professional, he should be able to ask those questions in the early stage to see if the person qualifies or are in line with each other's business.
Completely agree. Exactly. Unless you're selling orders through a website where you don't have to talk to a person, you have to sell.
$2.99 or $3.99. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. And so, yes, pick up the phone, talk to them, ask them the right questions, establish what their pain is. And it's normally pain. Human beings normally buy things or invest money to overcome a problem. And then, well, as well, like people buy emotionally and justify intellectually. And so a salesman's job is to find out the pain, the motivating reason, and why they want to fix it, and then have the intellectual discussion about costs, time, resources, and the decision-making process. You get those three things lined up, pain, budget, and decision. Whatever you present should be right, shouldn't it? Because you'd only present back to their pain, their budget, and their decision process. But too many salespeople don't do that because they don't talk to people, or they prematurely present, as I call it, premature presentation syndrome.
The question I have, that people that say cold calling is dead are using it because they fear it, and it's an excuse that they can pass on to their managers or their CEOs to say that it's not working.
Yeah, I think a lot of people who publicize cold calling is dead. I think a lot of it's what they call clickbait, just designed to get people to have an argument about it.
Yeah.
I also think it gives weaponry to useless and lazy salespeople an excuse not to pick up the phone. They don't need many excuses, but this is just another useful arsenal. But look at everything out there says we should be doing this, we should be doing that. Sure, use LinkedIn, use Facebook, use whatever platform you want, but not in prime calling hours. Yeah, it is not a replacement. It is another channel. But talking to a human being is more likely to move the process further quicker than engaging them on social media over months, if not years.
Yeah, it's like I would use LinkedIn. I've said it here nearly on every show. It's a Rolodex. I'll reach out to people on the iMessage inside and try and get into a conversation leading to a phone call. And then I know, and people have to be aware that there is large organizations out there, and this is the real scary thing. Don't use social media.
I know.
I'm just going to take a short break. Are you looking to boost your performance, motivate your sales team, have an all-round structure to your marketing? Get in touch with myself at Breakthrough Brands or contact me at joe@jdc.ie. Tell me, Sandler.
Yes.
You're part of the Sandler organization.
I am.
And Sandler is worldwide.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a methodology. Do you have to teach a program, or do you run your own program because you're the most hated salesperson, our sales trainer? And do you have to fit under their guidelines, or is it just under their name as a brand?
Yes and no. So the brand is the brand's not well known in the United Kingdom. It's big in America, but
Yeah.
over here it's not so well known. Most people have never heard of you, but it's a massive company. So yes, no, they have I would assume what you call a patented or copyrighted system and process. And so we teach that system, and I teach that system. And sales trainers, again, I suppose, are like lawyers or accountants. You get all different types and flavors, and some deliver it differently from others. We still pretty much follow the same format, but we may run things slightly differently. But the content will be the same, but the manner and the style of the delivery and the exact structure may vary. But there we do have parameters and guidelines. But as long as you don't damage the brand, from what I understand, and you stick within those parameters, you have an element of a creative license to be yourself.
Doing it. And when was the transition from yourself from selling to jumping into training?
I was introduced to Sana by an ex-client, an advertising executive, and I spent time with a guy called Marcus Kelke, who's probably the best trainer in the UK. Makes me look useless. I admire him greatly, and I work closely with him. And it was having done the training with Marcus and then going back out into the real world on my own. And I started applying what I'd been taught. And people would say to me, you have a very unique way of selling. You have a very interesting way of talking to people. Do you mind sharing with us or showing us what you do? So I kind of de facto started doing little bits of ad hoc training with people I worked with. And that's when I realized I quite like this. And I thought, I can't go around selling someone else's IP. I'll get in trouble. So I thought, well, I'll just be honest, go back and say, how do we get around this? What do we do? And that was how I got embraced into the Sandler family along with Marcus Kelke. So I work very closely with Marcus. So that's how I got into it. It was not something planned. It was an evolution, you could say.
It evolved into where you are now. And what sectors are you working on?
Oh, good question. The beauty of the Sandler system is doesn't really matter what you sell. Buyers pretty much buy the same way, the process they go through. So we can work, we do work across all sectors, but I suppose you pick areas that you are more comfortable in, not maybe because you understand them better, but because maybe the culture fit. So you stick me in front of a group of lawyers or accountants, I'm going to fall flat. My style just doesn't work. So I work with software companies. I work with people in construction. I work with people who do hardware. So I work with a lot of people who tend to have sales teams of maybe 4 or more, and they have to telephone prospect. They have to get in front of people. They often have a proposal sort of style. So it's consultative selling. So it's not small ticket, it's normally big ticket items. People are going to be investing, significant sums of money. And it's to help those types of companies. So it's across telecoms, IT, financial services. So a pretty broad brush, which is one of the beauties of what I do. So quite broad.
It's interesting because consultative selling I believe is true way. Like I have a process which is called the 5 C's, which is contact, categorize, convince, and close. And getting in those people, getting to understand them, and if you don't want to use the phone, get out of the business.
I would agree. I would agree.
What's your biggest issue that you feel that you come across when you have new people coming into the industry of sales? I don't like calling them juniors. I think that's the wrong name. So people that are getting ready to craft their sales business.
I think one of the biggest problems, I think it's probably across age groups nowadays, is instant gratification. I think people are in too much of a rush to get to where they need to be. Sales, prospecting to me is the only aspect of selling where it's a numbers game, because I can control pretty much everything once I've got in front of a human being, right through to the end. The only thing I can't control is whether or not a human being picks up their phone, which means if I know in order to hit my target, I need to have 3 effective conversations every day with the decision maker in order to get the number of meetings I need a month in order to close, I know I have to dial as many numbers as possible to have those 3 conversations. Once I've had the 3, I can do what I want for the rest of the day. But that could take 100 dials, or it could take 10. And I think there's a lack of consistency and habitual behavior. They do it in spurts. They do it in bit. They don't consistently prospect. And I think they're in it for a quick win too quickly. Then there's no patience anymore.
Yeah, I think the iPhone and the internet have caused that. It's like, many moons ago, if you had an issue, to ring up your mum and ask her, and she'd tell you. Now we just get into social media groups and ask questions, and we find out the answer there from people. What's the future for selling? It's like selling hasn't changed in thousands of years. It's still people engaging and still people talking about something, the other person understanding it and buying it. That's from a loaf of bread to a cup of coffee to whatever it may be. The platforms that we use are changing. What do you see is happening with salespeople and artificial intelligence coming on stream as well?
Well, it's funny. I was having this conversation recently with someone. I think artificial intelligence, for instance, lawyers, I think in about 50 years, 90% of lawyers won't exist because most of it will be able to be done by a very intelligent algorithm. But 10% of law still requires real human beings to plead and argue cases. I think sales is the same. I think all that artificial intelligence is going to do is going to weed out the useless order takers. So a lot of people that call themselves salespeople are in reality merely order takers. It'll eliminate those deadwood, but the consultative sell, someone is not going to place an order for a £400,000 piece of kit simply from following a HubSpot article to a website. It's not going to happen. So I think it'll weed out those that don't belong in sales, and those that are there are going to have to get a lot better because the competition will be greater. And so it'll be survival of the fittest, but there will still be salespeople. They'll just be a lot better.
So the future for sales for organizations, okay, they are going to get rid of the order takers. They're going to get rid of the low end asking those questions before that person wants to speak to somebody. Do you think that the professions then people are going to pay more for salespeople, or do you think that the industry is going to reduce? And the reason why I ask, let's look at the automotive industry. You have salespeople in there, and I know that a lot of them get paid pittance, and automotive industry wants to try and get people in to the industry. Like there was a campaign over here where they wanted to get IT sales guys coming into the industry, and the IT guys were getting paid, 100 grand, 120 grand a year. And when they looked at the automotive, they're going, hang on, you pay a basic of under 12 grand a year and you want to give me £50 a car?
Yeah, I have a very strong view on how salespeople should be paid. From my own experience, I have never ever been paid a wage or salary by Sandler. You either kill or you starve. That's been it. So when I first started this, I had to have another job on the side. So I was learning how to sell, and I had another job to make an income. So I have no sympathy for salespeople that get nice 30K basics and then moan about the leads or the prospects. You see, because if you feed a hunter a burger every day, even if they've not killed for themselves, they get fat and lazy. So people hate me. I say the first thing you should do to motivate your sales team is to take away their basics. Starvation is such a motivator. Well, and if you can't kill to survive, you really shouldn't be here. Yeah. Now, that is not popular, and I'm one of the few who believe that, but it's what's toughened me up because you shouldn't be in sales if you can't kill.
I worked in an industry where it was all just paid. It was an agent. It was your own business, and you basically got paid on what you sold. And if you didn't perform in 3 months, you were moved on out of there. And I worked in it for 10 years, so I do get it. Yeah,
and I think it separates salespeople from order takers. But I believe an employer has a duty, if they're going to have a sales team, to invest in them and equip them and give them the skills, the support, and the culture in which they are allowed to fail, because you only learn from failure. And that's a management issue. But yeah, I don't believe in boiler rooms and all of that, and I don't believe in cracking whips. If you equip people with the right tools and right skills and foster an environment in which they can learn and grow, then fine. But yeah, I'm certainly not for the boiler room sort of battery
but there,
hand
there
style.
you go. You have a guy and you go, right, he's listened to this. Right, I'm going in and I'm going to tell all my sales guys I'm not paying them anymore. I'm going to up their commission and they're going to work. You do have to have everything in place. You do have to be able to give them all the information and all the tools that they need. And that could be from a quality website, sending out blogs, advertising, all those marketing things that they might need, and techniques of how to use the phone and lists to call and then, reaching out. So sales and marketing to me are one. And I think that if a company wants to survive and only pay their sales guys a commission, they need to have their marketing together.
Yeah, they need to equip their people with the skills to go hunt. So you couldn't exactly send a hunter without a spear and say, well, it's your fault you're starving. Well, no, I need the equipment, but I will go out and I will spend my time in the bush hiding and learning how to walk quietly and how to stalk and how to throw with accuracy. That's my responsibility, but you give me the kit, but I'll go out there and do it. And maybe some days I won't kill, but starvation eventually will motivate me to learn the skills quicker than I might otherwise do so.
Your bare hands, for God's sake. You don't need a spear.
Don't need a spear. That's right. That's the Irish way.
Come to the end of the show. Before we go, where can people find you or reach out to you?
Well, the best place is, despite everything we've just said about social media, is on LinkedIn, because that's the only platform I really use to market myself, because I find it very useful. So if you want to connect with me, just go to LinkedIn. And yeah, I advertise all my events. I advertise my training on there. So everything is on there. And if you do not engage with me, you can't just email me and say, can you tell me what it'll cost and what I'll get out of it? The first thing I'll say to you is no, let's have a phone call for me to establish if you coming on the training is even in your best interest. So don't do that, because that tells me everything I need to know about a salesperson. The biggest complaint is they get fobbed off with send me an email, and then the first thing they do is say, can you send me an email?
Yeah.
And they wonder why it happens.
And so it's give them your full name on it on LinkedIn.
Sorry. So if you type in Benjamin Dennehy, UK's most hated sales trainer, I'm sure you'll find me.
And is there a website or anything as well? Or is it
there is a website, so it would be www.southeast.sandler.com. And if you wanted to email me, it's my name, benjamin.dennehy@sandler.com.
Brilliant. So, best business advice ever received? I'm sure Marcus gave it to you.
Oh, yeah, it's I can't say it all on radio, probably because of broadcasting standards, but the acronym is STFU, shut the up.
Yeah.
Salespeople spend 5 minutes selling and 55 minutes talking it back.
Yeah, listen.
Shut up, listen, ask better questions, be interested, not interesting, and get out of your own way. Don't be focused on the outcome, be focused on getting there. And that's the difference between a professional and an amateur. An amateur doesn't care about how they get there. They just want to get there. A professional is only interested in how they get there, because if they get there, whatever happens at the end should be right if they've done their process right.
Yeah, it's I've been in the game so long. I know when someone has emotionally bought something before they even do. And it's such a great feeling. Tell me, what book would you recommend?
Oh, well, I'll stick with it's written by David Sandler, the man that set up our organization. Very easy to read. Great title. It's called You Can't Teach a Kid to Ride a Bike at a Seminar. And it explains all about how he came up with the Sandler selling system and why it's so powerful. And it's still as relevant today as it was when he created this system, I think over 50 years ago now.
1956 or something, was it?
Yeah. I mean, and that's the beauty of Sandler. You know, I work with so many people who say, how come I have never, ever come across this? And I say, it's like the best kept secret.
Yeah.
And then they don't want to share you with other people because they don't want anyone else to know they're doing it. Because it's, and so getting referrals can be a bugger.
The psychology of sales has not changed, my friend. Has not changed.
No, it hasn't. People buy the same way today as they did 200 years ago. Nothing's changed. A lot of the techniques I do, Jesus did. He always told stories. He always reversed questions. He never answered them. He'd always flip them back and get someone to deal with their own problem. So he was, I think, the original salesman back.
Benjamin, it's been a pleasure having you on Breakthrough Brands. I've enjoyed this conversation.
I've enjoyed it too.
We'll let's keep in touch and see where it takes us.
Thank you, Joe. I thank you for the invite, and thank you to everyone that's listened. It's been emotional.
Thank you. I'm crying here. Benjamin, take care.
Cheers, Joe.
You and I know we can always do better. Breakthrough Brands Sales Acceleration Specialists, helping companies reach peak performance by introducing a marketing strategy to build a better prospect pipeline. Develop your leadership and sales skills with Breakthrough Brands Custom Sales Training Development. Go to Breakthrough Brands at www.jdc.ie or click the link on this page to see if Breakthrough Brands and you can work together. Great companies build a great relationship with their clients. Sales and marketing starts with a story. Let us help you with yours. Breakthrough Brands.